The long wait is finally over. After what felt like a lifetime, my LC300 finally arrived. They say good things come to those who wait, and for some, that's been up to 4 years. Seriously. Thankfully, that has come down quite a bit, and you can probably get one now from your Toyota dealer from anywhere between 6 months to about a year. But yeah, unless you're willing to pay the 1 to 2 million peso premium that some resellers have been charging, you're still going to have to wait, which is something that LC owners do better than most. You see, one thing you have to understand about Land Cruiser owners is we're okay with delayed gratification. We waited 14 years for a new model, so another year or two isn't going to put us off. And that's part of what has created this cult following. You see, while every other brand is taking the fast fashion or smartphone approach to cars, LC engineers think differently. They think in decades or generations. They skimp on what you want now and spend on what you need most, which over the last 70 years has created the kind of loyalty that you normally see in, well, many religions. And the only reason they can do that, or more importantly, the only reason we accept it, is because these are forever vehicles. Durable, rugged, tough as nails workhorses that will last you and your family a lifetime. And not just that, when you do eventually sell them, they're known to hold their value more than any other production car I can think of. Just look at the used car classifieds. Some of the LC200s are fetching more than what they got when they were sold new. It's as close to putting money in the bank as you can when buying a car. So, with the customer profiling out of the way, let's talk about the Land Cruiser 300. Let's start with the design first. In a word, it is unapologetic. Personally, I love it. I love the fact that it doesn't conform. It doesn't pander. They buck the trend of all those swoopy lines and futuristic looking designs and stuck with the tried and proven, rugged, boxy, in-your-face type of shape with a massive cheese grater grill up front that looks like it's going to swallow the car up in front. All jokes aside, there are practical reasons for that grill. Toyota says it's to help with the cooling, and I agree. It does make it look very, very cool. I also think there's a big improvement on the rear end of the car too. Even though we've lost the split type tailgate, which some people like, personally, I prefer having a single door. It's electronically operated as well, which makes it nice and easy. Third row also tumbles and folds electronically to reveal a massive flat cargo space that just swallowed up these 4 boxes of 20-inch rims, and we still had a ton of room for other things. Inside, you've got all the creature comforts you can imagine for a Land Cruiser. Although, don't expect Toyota to throw the kitchen sink at you. Again, sacrificing what you need now for what you need most. For example, you see a lot of luxury SUVs put all these fancy, flashy stuff in there, like these big 20-inch screens, multicolored interior lighting, or other gimmicks. Not the Land Cruiser. It still has that old school, timeless feel. Take a look at this center console. It's huge, chunky, and refreshingly analog. It even has a CD player. Yeah, I know, right? Knobs and switches are tactile. You can feel it. The buttons are physical, like how God intended them to be. None of this virtual haptic stuff. They do have the 12-inch touchscreen, of course, complete with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. That is very important nowadays because we all connect with our phones, but almost everything else has a physical button. And I love that. I can't state this enough. For somebody of my age bracket, without carbon dating myself too much, I need to see and feel things. I need everything to make sense in front of me and be laid out physically, logically. I don't want to go deep into sub-menus just to adjust the fan of my aircon. And that, the Land Cruiser does beautifully. Look at that chunky steering wheel. All the controls are right there by your fingertips. You've got so much here. There's radar cruise control that allows you to set the distance to the car in front of you and maintain that speed, which is very handy on long drives like the SE-TEX or T-Plex, where moving traffic speed constantly fluctuates. There's also a very aggressive lane departure warning here. This took a while to get used to be honest, but it turns out there's a little hack to bypassing it. You just have to press this button on your steering wheel and hold it for about 3 seconds, and it will disable completely until the next time you start the car. It has a ton of other safety features as well, like the forward collision control. Actually, it also does it in reverse. But just like the lane departure control, I find it a little bit aggressive. But then again, for the price of these vehicles, I'd rather be on the aggressive side than too much on the passive side. I mean, it really will brake for you if it notices a pedestrian or a car stopping in front of you. And that can be unnerving, but it's better than hitting something. But honestly, I think the most important thing I want to convey about this vehicle is not necessarily the specs, because not only is that information you can get anywhere, it is not where it makes its mark. Where the LC300 makes its mark is right in your heart. And that is so hard to quantify or place in a brochure. What makes it so different is because while it is considered a luxury vehicle, it is equally functional, practical, and unbreakable. It's a true utility vehicle disguised in comfortable, purposeful, sensible clothing. Owners go out of their way to choose the LC despite whatever compromises that it may have, like the lengthy waiting list we mentioned, or the lack of flashy tech that you get in other cars costing half as much. For example, these multimedia entertainment systems or these self-parking cars. You're going to get something better in a Ford, whether it's in the Expedition, the Explorer, or even the Everest and the Raptor. They give you that incredible Tesla-like vertical screen down the center, automated parking, and all the bells and whistles that they can throw at it. But that's not the Land Cruiser market. The Land Cruiser market is a market that values function before form. It's like a Rolex of the road, elegant, classy, but built like a tank. Something you can take anywhere. What surprised me the most, however, about the LC300 is just how easy this is to be a daily driver. I never expected that. I was prepared to keep another car for short trips or errands, but this has become my go-to. It's so comfortable, practical, and surprisingly easy to drive. This is my daily driver. It's also fairly efficient when you think about it. In city driving conditions, and I'm talking December height of Christmas traffic here, where I've been in standstill parking lot type of situations for hours on end, I'm getting 15 liters per 100 kilometers, which is around 6.5 kilometers per liter, or something like that. That's not great, I know, but there are 4-cylinder cars that are doing that same mileage. So for this size of vehicle, with this level of comfort and luxury, wow. One of the other things about the LC that you cannot effectively express in words or paper is the feeling you get when you're driving. It's hard to use a brochure to explain just how quiet, smooth, and luxurious it is. It's such a massive vehicle, but it moves with so much grace. Yes, it's big, but you don't really feel it. It's very maneuverable, even in Metro Manila traffic. The steering, well, has been improved for that, so it cheats its dimensions in a way. You've also got this 10-speed gearbox, and this makes a massive difference, not just in the comfort and the convenience, but also in the fuel economy. I mentioned earlier that I was doing about 6.5 kilometers a liter in the worst traffic conditions. Well, if you're going out of town, I've gotten as far as 15 kilometers per liter on the highway, but my record is 25 kilometers a liter coming down from Tagaytay in full eco mode. This is partly to do with the power-to-weight ratio and the fact that it's always going to find the perfect gear for you every single time. So you're never overworking the engine. You almost feel like you're just idling, and that's part of the perks of having 700 Newton meters of torque and 300 horsepower. Everything just feels so effortless, climbing hills, towing, cruising, and what other vehicle can you go from the jungle to the lobby driveway of a 5-star hotel and still get the same amount of respect? I guess there's only one. And for me, the Land Cruiser is that. But it's also been more than just a vehicle. For me, it's always been a milestone. Not just in the company's heritage or automotive history, but in my own. Because it was an aspirational model for me for the last 30 years. Ever since I was in my 20s, I always aspired to own a Land Cruiser and or a 911. Well, can't quite get to the 911 yet, but this Land Cruiser, well, it's basically a high watermark, a milestone in my own life. And I know that is something that I can hand down to my children, like a watch. because in 15, 20 years' time, this will still be as regal and as luxurious as it was the day it rolled out. And again, that's what sets the LC apart. You're not just buying a car, you're buying into a lifestyle, a philosophy. This is everything Toyota know in one car.